The spy withdrew, and Carton seated himself at the table, resting his forehead on his hands. The spy returned immediately with 2 men. "How, then?" said one of them, contemplating the falling figure. "So afflicted to find that his friend has drawn a prize in the lottery of St. Guillotine?" "A good patriot," said the other, "could hardly have been more afflicted if the aristocrat had drawn a blank." They raised the unconscious figure, placed it on the litter they had brought to the door, and bent to carry it away. "The time is short, Evrémonde," said the spy in a warning voice. "I know it well," answered Carton. "Be careful of my friend, I entreat you, and leave me." "Come then, my children," said Barsad. "Lift him and come away." The door closed, and Carton was left alone. Straining his powers of listening to the utmost, he listened for any sound that might denote suspicion or alarm. There was none. Keys turned, doors clashed, footsteps passed along the distant passages. No cry was raised or hurry made that seemed unusual. Breathing more freely in a little while, he sat down at a table and listened again until the clock struck 2. Sounds that he was not afraid of, for he divined their meaning, then began to be audible. Several doors were opened in succession, and finally his own. A jailer with a list in his hand looked in, merely saying, "Follow me, Evrémonde," and he followed into a large, dark room at a distance. It was a dark winter day, and what with the shadows within and what with the shadows without, he could but dimly discern the others who were brought there to have their arms bound. Some were standing, some were seated, some were lamenting and in restless motion, but those were few. The great majority were silent and still, looking fixedly at the ground. As he stood by the wall in a dim corner, while some of the 52 were brought in after him, one man stopped in passing to embrace him, as having a knowledge of him. It thrilled him with a great dread of discovery, but the man went on. A very few moments after that, a young woman with a slight, girlish form, a sweet, spare face in which there was no vestige of color, and large, widely opened, patient eyes, rose from the seat where he had observed her sitting, and came to speak to him. "Citizen Evrémonde," she said, touching him with her cold hand, "I am a poor little seamstress who was with you at La Force." He murmured for answer, "True. I forgot what you were accused of." "Plots. Though the just heaven knows that I am innocent of any. Is it likely? Who would think of plotting with a poor little weak creature like me?" The forlorn smile with which she said it so touched him that tears started from his eyes. "I'm not afraid to die, Citizen Evrémonde, but I have done nothing. I'm not unwilling to die if the Republic, which is to do so much good to us poor, will profit by my death. But I do not know how that can be, Citizen Evrémonde. Such a poor, weak little creature." So here this woman comes up to Carton, thinking that she is Charles Darnay or Evrémonde, and she says, "I'm illiterate, I'm poor, I'm a seamstress. What could the Republic possibly want from me? How can it possibly benefit from my death?" But she's still willing to go through with it, and that's kind of what allows the Republic to go through this mayhem, is that people are willing to sacrifice themselves and their loved ones. Picking up with As the last thing on this earth that his heart was to warm and soften to, it warmed and softened to this pitiable girl. "I heard you were released, Citizen Evrémonde. I hoped it was true." "It was, but I was again taken and condemned." "If I may ride with you, Citizen Evrémonde, will you let me hold your hand? I am not afraid, but I am little and weak, and it will give me more courage." As the patient eyes were lifted to his face, he saw a sudden doubt in them, and then astonishment. He pressed the work-worn, hunger-worn young fingers and touched his lips. So here she recognizes that this is not the Evrémonde that she knew at La Force. "Are you dying for him?" she whispered. "And his wife and child. Hush. Yes." "Oh, you will let me hold your brave hand, stranger?" "Hush. Yes, my poor sister. To the last." The same shadows that are falling on the prison are falling in that same hour of the early afternoon on the barrier with a crowd about it, when a coach going out of Paris drives up to be examined. So this here is the Darnay coach, Mr. Lorry, Dr. Manette, Lucy, and who they all believe to be Carton. They haven't looked at him very closely. "Who goes here? Whom have we within?" Papers. The papers are handed out and read. Alexander Manette, physician, French, which is he? This is he, this helpless, inarticulate, murmuring, wandering old man pointed out. Apparently, the citizen doctor is not in his right mind. The revolutionary fever will have been too much for him. Greatly too much for him. Ha! Many suffer with it. Lucy, his daughter, French, which is she? This is she. Apparently it must be. Lucy, the wife of Evrémonde, is it not? It is. Ha! Evrémonde has an assignation elsewhere. Lucy, her child, English. This is she? She and no other. Kiss me, child of Evrémonde. Now thou hast kissed a good Republican. Something new in your family. Remember it. Sidney Carton, advocate, English, which is he? He lies here in this corner of the carriage. He, too, is pointed out. Apparently, the English advocate is in a swoon. It is hoped he will recover in the fresher air. It is represented that he is not in strong health, and is separated sadly from a friend who is under the displeasure of the Republic. Is that all? It's not a great deal, that. Many are under the displeasure of the Republic, and must look out at the little window. Jarvis Lorry, banker, English, which is he? I am he, necessarily being the last. So from that page break earlier, when it talks about the cart to now, all of the narration that is done outside of quotation marks is Jarvis Lorry answering these questions. It is Jarvis Lorry who has replied to all the previous questions. It is Jarvis Lorry who has alighted and stands with his hand on the coach door, replying to a group of officials. They leisurely walk around the carriage and leisurely mount the box to look at what little luggage it carries on the roof. The country people hanging about press nearer to the coach doors and greedily stare in. A little child, carried by its mother, has its short arm held out for it, that it may touch the wife of an aristocrat who has gone to the guillotine. Behold your papers, Jarvis Lorry, countersigned. One can depart, citizen. One can depart. Forward, my positions. A good journey. I salute you, citizens, in the first danger past. These are again the words of Jarvis Lorry as he clasps his hand and looks upward. There is terror in the carriage. There is weeping. There is heavy breathing of the insensible traveler. Are we not going too slowly? Can they not be induced to go faster? Asked Lucy, clinging to the old man. It would seem like flight, my darling. I must not urge them too much. It would rouse suspicion. Look back, and see if we are pursued. The road is clear, my dearest. So far we are not pursued. Houses in twos and threes pass by us. So here we go from third-person narration to first-person narration. And Charles Dickens does this to really put the reader in this very frightening, suspenseful moment of trying to escape France with all of their lives intact. Houses in twos and threes pass by us, solitary farms, ruinous buildings, dye works, tanneries, and the like. Open country, avenues of leafless trees, the hard, uneven pavement is under us, the soft, deep mud is on either side. Sometimes we strike into the skirting mud to avoid the stones that clatter us and shake us. Sometimes we stick in ruts and sloughs there. The agony of our impatience is then so great that in our wild alarm and hurry we are for getting out and running, hiding, doing anything but stopping. Out of the open country, in again among ruinous buildings, solitary farms, dye works, tanneries, and the like, cottages in twos and threes, avenues of leafless streets. Have these men deceived us and taken us back by another road? Is not this the same place twice over? Thank heaven, no, a village. Look back, and see if we are pursued. Hush! The posting house. Leisurely our 4 horses are taken out. Leisurely the coach stands in the little street, bereft of horses and with no likelihood upon it ever moving again. Leisurely the new horses come into visible existence one by one. Leisurely the new postilions follow, sucking and plaiting the lashes of their whips. Leisurely the old postilions count their money, make wrong additions, and arrive at dissatisfied results. All the time our overfraught hearts are beating at a rate that would far outstrip the fastest gallop of the fastest horses ever foaled. At length the new postilions are in their saddles, and the old are left behind. We are through the village, up the hill and down the hill, and on the low watery grounds. Suddenly the postilions exchange speech with animated gesticulation, and the horses are pulled up almost on their haunches. We are pursued? Oh, within the carriage there. Speak then. What is it? Asks Mr. Lorry, looking out the window. How many did they say? I do not understand you. At the last post, how many to the guillotine today? 52. I said so. A brave number. My fellow citizen here would have it at 42. 10 more heads are worth having. The guillotine goes handsomely. I love it. High forward. Whoop! The night comes on dark. He moves more. He is beginning to arrive and to speak intelligibly. He thinks they are still together. He asks him by his name what he has in his hand. Oh, pity us, kind heaven, and help us. Look out, and see if we are pursued. The wind is rushing after us, and the clouds are flying after us, and the moon is plunging after us, and the whole wild night is in pursuit of us, but so far we are pursued by nothing else. That's the end. So it ends with Charles Darnay waking up and he thinks he's still in the prison cell with Carton. And that's the end of chapter 13.